Hello. Oh my goodness.
I'm just going to pretend that those screams were for me.
They are for you. They are for you. Can I see a quick showing of hands? How many people here saw Merrily We Roll Along? Okay. So
How many didn't?
He's going Tuesday. Okay. There might be
No
some
spoilers.
There might be some. There might be some.
There'll be a lot.
Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm so excited to celebrate Tony-nominated director Maria Friedman. I've learned via Maria and also Dan Radcliffe that British people are really bad at taking compliments. So I'm going to open with this and just get it out of the way. We get asked all the time in interviews, oh my God, okay, no. We get asked all the time in interviews why this production of Merrily, after flopping on Broadway over 40 years ago, why this is a success. And there are two words for the reason of that success, and those two words are Maria Friedman. Maria, I'm sure everybody in this room knows this, but it's worth stating again that Maria has an incredible career as an actress, a theater actress, 9 Olivier Award nominations, 4 wins. Maria was the first Dot in Sunday in the Park with George in London, and that's where she started her lifelong almost 40-year collaboration with Stephen Sondheim. And I believe that Maria's work as an actress with Sondheim and her personal relationship with Sondheim is a large part of what gives our production of Merrily its soul. The characters in Merrily, I'm gonna finish this monologue soon, I promise.
No, I'm loving it.
I promise it's gonna end soon. I'm gonna ask you questions, but oftentimes people were saying that the characters in Merrily were unlikable, that they were bitter, that they were cynical, and I think that it's no mistake that it took a female director to see through all of that cynicism and connect to the heart and the love in the story. But it's more than just Maria's empathy as a director that I think makes the show amazing. She's also relentless. She is never done working, and she has painstakingly crafted every single micro beat of our show, from the very beginning note to the final moment. Everything that she has so carefully laid out, beat by beat in the story, is what adds up to what we're doing at the Hudson. And I'm just so grateful to her, and I love her so much. And she's given all of us, including me, such a gift with this show. So thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
I want to ask just a sort of fun question to start, which is Tony nominee Maria Friedman. So what does that mean to you? What does that feel for you? Go off.
So when I was in my 20s, which is a couple of years ago, I was asked to come to New York as a young, aspiring actress with a man called Charles Hart. I wasn't his girlfriend or anything. We were working together. And he'd written the lyrics for Phantom of the Opera. And I remember flying to New York. I was given a single room in the plaza with a bed sort of the size of this. And we were going to the Tonys. And I had borrowed a dress, and I put it on, and I promptly broke the zip at the back. And a lovely woman came in who was coming to do the turn down, and she sewed me into my dress. And I got my taxi to the Tonys. And I remember getting out of the car and everyone going, "Who is it?" And then there was nobody, and then they were all leaving. And getting out of the car and sitting in the Tonys. And it was the year that Joanna Gleason was doing one for Into the Woods. And Patti LuPone was next to me here, and there were all these people that I had, as a Brit, heard about but never seen or been near. And it literally was only a couple of days ago that I put the two and two together. That I'm going to be in the audience, but I'm going to be nominated. I couldn't believe it. It was just like, wow, I just hope my zip doesn't break and somebody will throw me in. But it, like all these things, I always believe that we walk along with our history. I walk alongside that girl who has had all those aspirations, who literally couldn't believe I was there. And I feel exactly the same. I can't believe that I've been nominated. I feel completely overwhelmed by it.
Okay, so the transition, I'm so curious to know, because I don't know the answer to this question. Many of the questions I'm asking you, I don't know the answer to. I'm just dying to ask you this. And it took a crowd of people.
It was so funny, because we worked so closely together,
Yes.
and I know we will be lifelong friends. But it's always been about the work, because that's the time we have together, and then we go outside. So we always talk about how we can, grapple with a bit that might not be working or try something. But to actually have this is hysterical.
It
in front
is.
of all of
It's
you.
so good.
Yes, yeah, so go ahead.
And we're such show ponies, of course. We're going to have our first real conversation in front of an audience.
Of course. It's where I'm happiest, by the way.
Totally, same. So this transition from actress to director, is this, when you were acting for all those years, in the back of your mind, was it always like, someday I'm going to direct?
No.
When did the flip get switched, and when did you decide to become a director?
No, I had absolutely no intention of ever being a director, but what I realise now that I've spent some years doing it, I always was. When I first started directing, and I gave a note to a company that they didn't understand, and I watched 21 people going, I realised I had spent my entire life like that with poor directors going, because I want to understand, I really have to understand what's required, what's under the skin of a character. It's the only way I know how to operate, is under the water. Not on, we've got the show, we've got the stuff that they write. What happens under the water, in the weeds, in the muck, all that? That's the bit that interests me. So I know I didn't want to be a director, but I had a 3-month period between jobs, and I knew I had nothing I could do between then that would, that I could actually enjoy. And I had been asked by a drama school to come and direct, Central School of Speech and Drama. And I said no. And my husband said, please say yes, because otherwise you're going to be home for 3 months, not knowing what to do with yourself. And he said, say yes, do Merrily We Roll Along. You were in it, I was in it, and at least you can come home, and if you're a bit worried or stuck, we can talk about it.
It was Adrian's
It was
idea?
Adrian's idea.
What?
100% Adrian's idea.
No.
Not mine. My husband.
He said, do Merrily We Roll Along,
because he'd played Frank at drama school.
Oh,
and
he's never told me that. I'm waiting for the
Would
notes.
he? He's got a few notes for you.
I bet. So he said, I was Frank in drama school, you were at Leicester Haymarket.
And we both loved the piece. And we didn't, honestly, we hadn't talked about it. We didn't, it was unbelievable, right? And so I went and did it. And then I went into that room, and it was like somebody had given me breath. Because as an actor, it's a requirement that you think about yourself and the character. It's a necessity. So there's a lot of anxiety that comes with being an actor about getting it right and doing everybody proud and making sure, and it's more exacting than being a director in terms of the personal vulnerability that you have to put yourself through. And the release of actually looking at the whole and understanding all the vulnerabilities in front of me of those beautiful people that were anxious, and I could hold them. Because as an actor, very few times I've been in a rehearsal room where I'm held. Brilliant directors, but not many of them know that interior world. The alchemy, it's says, I get the credit for Merrily. This man goes out with his full beating heart. And I chose Jonathan because, as he said, alluded to, that Frank has in the past been cited as being, you know, narcissistic, vain, all those things. Not one bit of it. That is not the issue with Frank at all. And those, I'm not doing a spoiler, go and see it. It's, but the grappling with everyday life is what theatre and art needs to deal with. It needs to remind us of ourselves. We don't want to paint a picture of, and I certainly don't want to be teaching people lessons. I want to show a mirror, a gentle mirror towards you, where in a safe place you can look to yourself and just ask some questions. I don't want any answers. I want lots and lots of questions in theatre, and a reminder of myself, and a reminder of the fact that it's all right to fuck up, because we all do, and then we can start, we can reset, we can try again. That's being alive. We are going to make mistakes. And so we meet these people, and this is me going off, why did I write? I directed because Adrian said so. But I found something that I want to do, because I'm comfortable doing it. From birth, from the minute I could talk, I preferred living in my stories than in the real world. I find the real world a very, very peculiar place. And I find it the ordinary things more difficult than getting into the stories that can shift the dial, that can make us be. I think theatre, more than any other form, more than books, more than paintings, more than music, is because we're human beings in front of you, it can highlight empathy, which is something we need in the world, and we can practice it quietly in a communal space. That's what I feel theatre's about.
Yes, yes. So now I'm going to ask a kind of specific Merrily. So you're in that drama school with these students, and you're staging Merrily, and it's coming together, and you're realizing, oh, I've got these faces looking at me. I'm on this other side. I understand them.
Yeah.
Where does your point of view of Merrily, which is the bookending of Frank with the folder, the setting it in the apartments, like how does your concept? I know that you say that you don't have like a concept.
I do though.
But you do, yes. So speak to that.
You have to have a point of view.
Yes. So
as a director,
where does that start to like grow from?
Well, I looked at it. It was again, these things are very unself-conscious. I don't sit there. I'm not somebody who does a lot of research and read every version of Merrily. I didn't do any of that. I looked at what's on the page, and I really believe that profoundly. You can't do what's not on the page. That's what I've got to work with, right?
Yeah.
So we go backwards. So my first question was, what scene would be the starting scene if it started 5 years later? What would that scene be? Where would Gussie be? Where would Meg be? The girl, sorry, for those of you who've seen, but you know the iodine. Where would she be? Where's Gussie? Where are all these people? And I start always from a position of hope. I believe in humanity. I believe in people. I believe in love. I believe in those things profoundly. And the day I give up will be the day I stop wanting to make theatre. And so I wanted to work out, where is Frank in all this? So I started thinking, well, every scene in Merrily We Roll Along, apart from one, is in New York. But we meet Frank in his Bel Air apartment. Frank Lloyd Wright, my favourite architect, I thought, I might as well do that. It's a lovely frame. It's beautiful. And I realised instantly it's a memory piece, because I think of Frank in the scene that's not written, and we spoke about this a lot. And I'll keep it quiet and private because I think it belongs with Jonathan while he's playing this role. But it's a desperate either-or place he finds himself in. And like the big questions in life, the big ones. This isn't like, shall I write a song? This is, look at my life. What happened? And from the moment of the question of what happened is his hope, because he starts to have some introspection and spool back and slowly bring in the characters of his life and see his point, which part of him is culpable, responsible, and which wasn't. So it's not full of blame, it's not full of judgment, it's a look. And I started with two things which are different to three things that are different from the original. One, it's from Frank's perspective and it's a memory play. And it starts at a point of breakdown. Number one. Number two, in the original, the two boys are him, Columbia, me, Juilliard, whatever what it is. They're boys that come from money. And I made Frank in my head a scholarship boy, because Charlie can afford his principles. He can afford integrity. He comes from a good family, an educated family, a family that will babysit his children when he has them. And we notice I interrogate the script, Frank never mentions parents. Mary does. Mary says, my parents are coming. Nothing for Frank. So I start with no roots. I start with a man looking for family. I start with an orphan. I mean, he may have parents, but they're certainly not there. They're not present. They're not spoken about. The only other person who's never talks about parents is Gussie. So we kindred spirits. That's why they end up hooking onto each other, not because some crazy ambition, but a recognition. And so I start with the fact that this is a boy who joined the army. No conscription at that point. He joined the army. Why? And if you spool back to the beginning, what does he promise? What does he promise everyone? He promises them that the whole world is possible and everything is possible at this moment. As young people on the rooftop, he says, come with me on this journey. Charlie's afraid, Mary's afraid. They hang on to him and he takes off and takes them with his natural charisma, genuine brilliance. And I don't believe he sells out. I do not believe he sells out. He does say, if I didn't have music, I would die. And he does. There's a death, because he lets that go. But he also says, musicals are popular. They're a great way of stating important ideas, ideas that can make a difference. And he says, Charlie, we can change the world. And they go to try and do that. He wants success. What's wrong with that? So it's this whole thing about deciding that Frank's sold out. He doesn't sell out. He makes a great musical, he makes another great musical, then he makes a film of it. What does Stephen Sondheim do? Made a great musical, and made a film of it. What's wrong with it? He wrote things to be seen, not to be sitting in a cupboard with people going, well, that was brilliant. No, who cares? It's about getting it out there in the world, ideas that make a difference. So I don't think Frank is a sellout. I think people who are in the arts are always grappling with making popular things that make a difference. And it's the hardest thing to get commercial and art right, but it can be done. And I think he strives for it. He loses his way. So memory, Frank's perspective, and he's not a sellout. So they're the three major things and then every road, the way I direct, leads to Frank. Every road, everything is leading to Frank. So that we know where we're watching, we know, this is my favorite thing. People come and see the show and go, congratulations for making it all about Mary. Congratulations for making it all about Charlie. Congratulations for making it all about Frank. Congratulations for making it about all of them. So it's where I ask you to join in with the questions. I think there's no other piece that I know that you are both in it and watching it because of our questioners who come in and go, how did you get to be here? How many people, please ask yourselves, how many times in your life have you said that to yourself? I say it, how the hell did I get to be here? I keep asking myself that. Just that question opens this infinite set of kind of ideas and questions. That's the longest answer I've ever given.
That was beautiful. Okay. You invoked Stephen Sondheim, and you also invoked kindred spirit. So, talk about that. Talk about your kindred spirit, Stephen Sondheim.
With Steve.
You and him. What was the? Because you are kindred spirits. You were kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Tell me about that meeting. Tell me about that connection in work and in life.
Yeah. So, I think. Gosh, how can I explain Steve to people? So Steve the man and Steve the artist and Steve the creator, they coincided, lived alongside each other. I grew to know Steve, my friend, loyal, funny, curious, dependable, feisty. The thing about Steve, he was the youngest man in the room, always, because his genuine interest in human beings. So you would say something, he listened so hard. I have this thing now where I see people hearing and not listening. He listened. So you said something that didn't add up, like straight in. So you had to show up. You had to show up. And if you showed up, you were guaranteed conversation, always laughter. Like you, we always cried. We cried, we laughed, always. I mean, within seconds. Yeah, seconds.
That makes me feel better.
No, honestly, he would have loved you so much. I can't tell you. You would have been firm friends, and we would have eaten many, many dinners together and had lots to drink. I miss that man so much.
What do you think it was, like, if let's say Frank and Gussie parentally didn't have, what do you feel like you shared in your, like, what was the connection about between the two?
What a great question. Wow. Curiosity, passion, a desperate need to communicate, to find a world, a desperate need to communicate. And I think he loved me to begin with because he knew if he gave me his lyrics, I would live in them and I would make them full, and he would come out going, look what I wrote. And I think you do that. I think he would have seen what he wrote, and I think you need certain performers to do what you've written, to see what you've written. And he knew I got every beat, and he could offer me something, and I could do it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And it's what you are. It's what you are. I can offer you. There's a point. Jonathan's a deeply kind man all the way through. And I wanted him not to be that for a moment. And there was do you remember this day?
Yeah.
And he was like, it's quite good, looking like he was having a temper and being cross. It's quite good. But I was like, don't believe it. And I kept on saying to him, and I demonstrated a kind of moment where you're like this from nothing to go, you know that thing? It has to be on a knife edge. It can't be, because otherwise it's like nothing to that. And it was nearly there. Anyway, I was talking to him one day, and he suddenly, like from nothing, went, like that. Anyway, he didn't know, but he grabbed my arm, and I punched myself in the face. But it was exactly what I wanted. So I didn't say anything. And I went, and I was, actually it was quite painful. I was like, and I said, exactly that, exactly that. And then I went away round the corner and went, oh. But that's the way life is. It's not, it doesn't go, does it? It doesn't, when you nearly get run over or somebody out of the blue ruins your day by, it's not like it comes around like that. People aren't like that. They just aren't like that. We pretend we are, but we're not like that. And so that's the other thing Steve liked about me. I'm very present. I'm very present. And
you were saying that you were saying to start, he loved you because you could present his.
Yeah.
And then is there a and then?
I promise you, if I was shit at what he did, he might not have spoken to me ever.
Of course.
Because it's an artist and an interpreter.
Yeah.
So we started from that.
Yeah.
And then I've done pretty well every role in, certainly nearly all his musicals. It's been most of my life.
And then when did it transition into the friendship? And what was that about? And how did that?
That happened during Passion, when I was playing Fosca in Passion, and he couldn't leave. I found him in the car park behind a car, sobbing. And we sat down behind a car, but just on the floor together, because he thanked me for it never said thank you, that wasn't his style. But his tears were enough and just like held on to me. And we stayed, that was the turning point. I'd been to dinner with him and I'd had tea with him and everything. And then he threw me parties when I came here. And then I used to sing at the Carlisle every year for about, I did it on and off for 4 years. And he actually put the programmes together for me. And I was presented by Stephen Sondheim, Barbara Cook doing my sound, and Wally Harper doing my lights at the Carlisle.
Oh my God.
That was a thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he brought me into the community, and then things happened, and I ended up not coming here as often, but we stay. I mean, we're always in touch and great friends.
Okay, I just realized that I'm not asking you questions in reverse chronological order. So
How
it's really
funny!
So now, like you talked about being held, and we were talking briefly in the green room about your sister, Sonia Friedman, who is our producer. Yes, Sonia. Maria just won the Best Director award at the Drama League. And Merrily won Best Revival, and yes, all right. And your speech was incredible as Best Director, loving and effusive and gorgeous. And then Sonia got up and accepted for Merrily We Roll Along, and she talked about your sisterhood, and she talked about your family, and alluded to the fact that it was not easy, that there was 4 of you, 4 siblings.
There's 4 and another brother who is, I consider my real brother, from my dad's second family. So it's 5.
And that your you were taking care of each other.
Yeah.
And can you share with us about like what was going down?
If anybody's interested, I mean,
I think we're interested.
Yeah. So both my mum and dad were quite extraordinary people. My mum spoke 7 languages, 5 degrees. She was a concert pianist, a grand bridge master, a historian. She lectured, she could read hieroglyphics. She lectured on Egyptology and at the British Museum. And she was an art historian at the National Gallery on early Renaissance paintings. So that was my mum. That was my mum. And my dad was a world-famous violinist. He was hugely successful as a soloist and had orchestras all over the world. But fame and my father, interestingly, he decided that 4 children were not conducive to practice. So he was rarely there, and then finally left when I was 5, and Sonia was 6 weeks old. And we were in another country, and we found out my mum had to give up her playing. That's why she got all these other qualifications, because she had to bring up 4 kids alone without any support. And she was, I cannot tell you how full of love she was, but she wasn't able to really manage being a mum. So we didn't have bedtimes, we didn't have a lot of food, we didn't go to school. I pretty well didn't go to school, nor did Sonia, by the way, nor did my brother Ricky. After 12, I was massive truant. I left home at 15. My mum helped find my bedsit at 15. When I think about it now, I just can't believe that anybody would go, yeah, fine, live on your own. 15. Wow. So
in London?
In London, yeah. And I was never an actor or a singer or anything. I worked as a, secretary, a receptionist, a tea girl, a bar woman. I mean, I did 14 different jobs. Yeah, didn't go to drama school, didn't do any of those things. Yeah. So and I started because I was a receptionist in a backing, like a jingles place. And I used to answer the phone going, "The wolves!" Like, and honestly, I was I was a terrible receptionist. Terrible. And I used to do great pranks, like I'd make a call and I'd put it through to the boss, and then I'd pick any old boss's number from another phone book, and I'd say, "Mr. Bory, it's Mr. DeWolf for you. Hold the line a moment. Mr. DeWolf, it's Mr. Bory for you. Hold the line for a moment." Then I'd get everyone around the thing, and I'd get them going, "Hello? Yes, what can I do? What can I do for you? What can I... Maria!" I was fired from every job. Anyway. I didn't last, they always found lovely, they all liked me, but they always find some excuse why I wasn't quite right for the job. But this guy, this is a great story, this guy who was one of the engineers, he really thought I could sing, because I used to muck about and everything. And he said, "Can you really sing?" There was a Marmite advert. Have you heard of Marmite?
Ugh, yeah.
So the I love it. I love it. Okay. It's Marmite advert. Anyway, one of the backing singers didn't turn up. And because I came from a classical background, I read music and I could play the cello and I could, I was very okay at music.
From your parents?
Yeah. I mean, we all played instruments and everything. It was the Von Trapp family. And anyway, to cut a very long story short, this girl didn't turn up and he said, "Can you actually read music?" I said, "Yeah, I really can." So I went in and I did a backing singing, didn't get paid, for a Marmite advert. And afterwards he said, "You have to leave, Maria, you have to leave, you have to go and sing." And so he bought me a paper every week called The Stage, and he used to put it down on my reception desk, and he'd ringed things that I could go up and audition for.
My God.
And I went and auditioned for something, and my first thing was which I didn't get, was to play Anne Boleyn in the Beefeater restaurant in Tower Bridge. And I went and I got a sheet music, The Way We Were.
Oh,
and,
perfect.
But listen, this is an amazing story. The Way We Were, didn't get the fucking job. But 25 years later, I'm singing with Marvin Hamlish, opening the Fairmont Hotel with him on the piano, doing The Way We Were. And Marvin took me all around the world with him, and when he, it's like I was talking before, I'm losing people that loved what I did, But so all that went on. So anyway, that's how I started. Thanks to, and then last thing, when I did Women in White in London, I went to the recording studio to record my part, and Gary, who circled my thing, was the engineer.
No!
Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Okay, this is funny.
Fact.
That's crazy. Okay, so a weird connection that we have is that you were doing Woman in White in the autumn of 2005.
Yeah.
Which is the same, we were on Broadway at the same time. My Broadway debut was in a Broadway flop called In My Life at the Music Box Theater. I was right around the corner from you. We were both, that was your Broadway debut,
Yeah, and
right?
we never met.
And we never, well, I was an understudy swing, so yeah, you were the star of the show. So we were there at the same time, crazy, 19 years ago, on that corner, making our Broadway debuts, which is insane. This was also, was this the first time that the cancer had appeared for you?
Yeah.
In Woman in White?
Yeah, when I was here.
And can you share that story? Like, you're making your Broadway debut, it's a new Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, and what happens?
Well, I found a lump. We hadn't even previewed, and I found a lump, and 2 days later it was removed, and then I
Thank you.
I continued to do the show. I did radiotherapy every day and the show every night, and then we folded.
No,
I should have stayed home.
And is it true that so right before you were directing Merrily, had it come back again? And you
I had a really bad second go at it. Yeah, that came back worse, and that was really, really traumatic. And that's why I didn't come back for a long while. I decided, you know, I didn't know I've got 2 children. And I didn't know how long I had, so I made an absolute decision that I was going to give up performing. It broke my heart because it's everything I was and am, may I say. I'm not everything, but I mean a huge part of who I am is that. But I knew that I needed to be a mum, put my kids to bed, do that stuff which I wanted to do. It was I would never ever take that back. But what happens if you are, I was 45, so parts were already diminishing, but if you get off that train, it goes, and it just went. And so it wasn't even that I did a lot of TV and concerts, like My Beautiful Marvin and Steve kept me going. They kept me going. They wouldn't let me to be defined by it. So I kept singing, but it wasn't the constant thing I'd done from 22 to then. It just stopped. It stopped like, wow. And everyone said, you won't give up, you won't give up. And I got off the plane and I phoned my agent and said, I'm stopping. He said, no, you're not. I said, yeah, I am. And it was 15 years before I did another musical. Yeah, and I only did it for 3 months, and that was about 4 years ago.
And what was that one?
That was Fiddler on the Roof. I took over from that beautiful Judy Kuhn for just 3 months, and my God, I was not fit, I'm telling you. I missed 3 entrances because I was talking in the wings. They couldn't believe it. They were like, who is this woman? I was just like, I would never have missed an entrance before, but I was like, I was just not on, you know. When I was on, I was really good. But when I was off, I was like something had happened.
Well, I want to, before I have these questions from the audience that I'm going to ask now, but I want to say quickly before we finish talking, I saw your concert, Legacy, that was at the Hudson Theater on a night off about 3 months ago, and Maria Friedman has still got it, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope that you start playing roles again and come back to doing theater, and your next Tony nomination is for As an Actress, as it deserves to be. Okay. So here's some audience questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is from Tracy D. Where you at, Tracy? Where? Oh my God, you're right there. Okay, amazing. Tracy says, in the show, Frank says he wants to hold on to a moment, a picture that I can treasure. What are the top moments both of you want to treasure from the beginning of the whole journey until now? You first.
No, you.
Me?
When I met you in Steve's house. Steve had gone, but I wanted Jonathan to be in, well, to feel Stephen. So I took him to his house and we sat and we talked for ever. And I thought, that's it then. That's who's playing my Frank. That moment changed everything. You.
I'll never forget it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
That was like I was in Pennsylvania and I drove up to meet you.
Yeah.
We'd met over Zoom, but we had not yet met in person, and it was months later and very special.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, How has your relationship to Merrily, as well as your takeaways of the messages, themes, and life lessons of the show, changed as your journey with it has progressed? I.e., from playing Mary to directing in London to directing this current production in New York City. This
Great.
is from Jess.
Well, if we had another 2 days, I'd tell you.
Yeah,
But I'll very briefly, what my takeaway thing is that people stop us all and say that it's reminded them of how important friendship is. And if that's something that people can take home with them, I say we can't keep our friends forever, all of them. Some come, some go, but those moments are no less valuable. They were wonderful. If you've had friends and then you've had to move on for whatever, it doesn't diminish that. But also be mindful, pick up a phone if you feel like phoning somebody. And my big thing is never assume. Don't assume that somebody doesn't want to hear from you, or that, you know, they just, if you love them, let them know. That's what I would say. And how I've changed through it. When I first played Mary in my 20s, I was lucky enough to learn from Stephen and George, who came into the rehearsal room with rewrites and everything every day. I realised, A, the detail, the joy, the passion, the fun, the love. As I said on that speech, is that Steve used to cry, literally tears, saying, why doesn't everybody know that all I do is write love songs? That's what he wrote. Everything is about love, wanting love, hoping for love, missing love. It's all roads lead back to that. So I was taught by the master himself that that's what you do. You pour love into the corners. They give us the scaffolding. They give us the structure. We bring ourselves, right? So that continues in everything I do. That's all I'm really interested in, actually. That's all I'm interested in, is detailed storytelling and examining why love is so hard and so essential.
That was a huge moment of revelation in rehearsal when you said to Dan and I in
Franklin Shepherd Inc.
Yeah, Franklin Shepherd Inc. is
It's the greatest love song. It's the greatest love song ever written. It's a man saying, look at me, I love you. I love you.
That's the guy I love.
Yeah, and I make him bash you. Wake up.
We were just talking about that today.
Really?
The hitting, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I'm really beating the fuck out of you. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, in most plays, actors use the previous scenes to inform their choices as the play progresses. Yeah. But you can't do that in Merrily because it isn't chronological. Is it difficult to have to start fresh with each scene? That's a great question for you.
Such a good question.
Yeah.
So in rehearsals, I got ice pops. You know those things? Because you need to jump in cold, really cold. And what they were doing was hanging over and also filling in the gaps that they shouldn't know, So there were no revelations, that because they knew it, you have to forget everything from the scene before and jump in cold. So we did that, didn't we? I mean, not everybody. You did the ice pops, I think.
I took the ice pops,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love a popsicle.
It's like freezing cold, fresh. Like, you know how I talked about those sharp turns? Once you start enjoying that as an actor, it's so thrilling, isn't it? It's thrilling.
It is. And I feel like what you're saying about don't assume as a lesson, this thing of like, and the thing that you say all the time too is it's never too late for a restart.
Never.
And that's your hopeful ending for the pose at the end that you put Frank in every production.
Yeah.
He can restart. Who knows if he'll be friends with those people, but he can go back to music. He can restart.
You do.
Yes. It's a restart. And it's funny because in playing the show, we're building the muscle of restarting.
Yes.
By dropping what came before as a sort of personal exercise. It's so great because it's building that internal muscle.
And you know the genius of these guys, there's no silly makeup or silly, like, suddenly aging. There was a brilliant moment where Dan, he's always pirouetting and jumping all about places and hugging. And Dan's doing one thing, and they were charging about, he was pirouetting, and I don't know, Dan was doing something really strange. And then Lindsay was doing something really strange. And then we started setting Old Friends, and they looked at me without any irony at all, said, I think this is a bit silly for us. I don't think we'd do that. It's like, I'm just stopping right now. Just tell me what you were doing 1 minute ago.
Yes.
That we think because we're 40-something that suddenly everything changes. I am still 5, I'm still 25, I'm still 45, and it stopped there. But, you know, the big shock is when I look in a mirror. It's just a terrible disappointment. but I am all those things, and I walk with them all. And therefore, I always think what they do is so genius, because it's just done with a shift of energy. It's a shift of energy. It's not suddenly, you know, there was one point where I think Lindsay said something like, would I be able to sit down like that? I said, watch me, sit.
Yes.
You know, I'm like 64. Yes is the answer.
Yes,
yes.
And that's the nuance that Maria like directed with, which is, also because you had 12 years of experience with the show. So we, in many ways, were playing catch up with your knowledge, and you were inviting us, like, playing the ending is such an obvious thing, but you know, playing overly serious in the end, or play all these nuances of being youthful at certain moments. It's like beat to beach. This is like the specificity of direction. And I want to say with the transitions and going backwards, Maria also directed the fuck out of the transitions. Because of this palate cleanse of she literally had us eating popsicles between each scene to cold refresh, but you have directed the fuck out of the incredible ensemble members that are singing in the transitions, the energy and the intention with the way that they
bring the whole of themselves.
Yes.
With generosity.
Yes.
That's the point, is that you've all paid your money to come and sit in there. We need to welcome you. We need to say thank you and hello, and you're one of us and we are one of you, and together we are all going to experience this together. And that takes so much skill from those guys, because they haven't got the dialogue or the material, so they had to, and they started off very reverential. It was very, very serious, because, you know, people want to make an impact. And I said, your impact will be your humanity. I want all your specificity, you. I want every inch of you to come out into that. And not a bit like her or a bit like you, but you, because that's all we have. That's all we've got, is our uniqueness. That's it. We can't be I'll be a second-rate anybody else. I can be a 20th-rate me, but I can also be a first-rate me. I can be all those things.
Okay, and this is the last question, which is perfect because we have 2 minutes left. I love this question, Paul. Maria, what other project would you like to do with Groff?
I'd do anything. I would literally, if he wants me to do anything with him, the answer would be yes.
Same.
Yeah.
To close it down, I'll just say that you. Having a director ask us, as all of the actors, like you just said, having somebody ask to bring all of yourself to something is so rare and so special. And
But look what you did. You did that.
But you
did it. You did it. I saw it. You own it. You do it. I watch in awe. I watch in awe and gratitude every time I see you on stage. There are people who go on stage for themselves, and there are people who go on for fame, and then there are people who go on stage because they would die. It saves them. It gave them a life. Jonathan sings for his life. He walks on stage for his life and for your life. That's why he's Jonathan Groff. That's why you're different.
I love you. I love you. Thank you all so much. And I think that to share gratitude with everybody that came tonight, I know that you and I both believe this, that is acting, directing, performing, it is all an act of service for the audience.
It's all it is. It's an offering.
Yeah, it's an offering.
I say it to everybody before the show. I say, you go out there, you say thank you. You don't go out there saying, look at me. You say thank you, and you offer people. Offer. It's an offering. Steve wrote, so you watched. George wrote. They wrote on their own. They painstakingly crafted these things so that it's for you. There's only one reason for me being here. It's for you. That's the only reason. And when I sit in an audience, and as I said, musicals are popular, and I go to the back of the stalls of the Hudson Theatre, and I hear the audience breathe as one and sigh as one, I'm like, Steve, George, well done.
Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to the Y. Thank you to the Y. Thank you.